Hi guys, Mike here. Welcome to episode 13 of the Endless Runner series. In this episode, we are going to implement a jumping down feature of the run character. So let's get started. So in this episode, we are going to use the jumping down feature of the character so that in mid-air when he's jumping and is longer in the air, we can hit the down button, which is the S key or the down arrow key, and the character automatically gets an impulse down and falls to the ground. So let's check our settings first again. So under input, we remember that we said jump, we had move left, move right, and we have move down. So it's the S key and the down key. So I guess let's get into code and implement this. So in our editor, we need a new view property. But first, let me explain how this is going to work. So in theory, we use physics to add an impulse to our character movement and add that impulse of a negative value so that it moves down when in midair. So for this, we need a U property that we can change in blueprints. Let's copy this, for example, put it up here and make this edit anywhere so that we can edit it. It's going to be a float. We call it move down impulse. And we give it a default value of 1000.f. And now let's go to our CPP file. And you can still see we still have that UE log. So let's delete this and see what we need to do. So basically we need an impulse, which is an F vector that we can add to our character movement. Or basically what we need to do is we need to get our character movement and then set add impulse. And you can see the impulse needs an F vector and a boolean which we set to true because we want to change our velocity downwards. So for this, we need kind of like our impulse and true. So this is going to be an F vector. And one thing that I want to introduce in this episode is local static variables. So that means that this variable is local but is static, so it's created once, and if you always hit move down, it will use the same value because this won't change over time. And creating a vector all the time is not a good practice if we can really use static local variables. So let's do this. So we say static F vector, we call it impulse equals F vector. Then we want to add the impulse in the C value so that goes down. So X is 0, Y is 0, and for the C value, we use the move down impulse that we created. So it will create this vector once, and then when we hit move down key, then the get character movement will add the same vector all the time. And we do it as a static local variable so that we don't need to have it as a member variable. This is really local to this function, so we can actually do this like this. So let's compile this and see if it works. So let's head back to the editor and hit play. So let's try this. Let's say move jump. You see the character stays a long time in the air, and if we hit down now, it automatically gets the impulse and jumps down. So this is the jump down feature. So this is a relative short video, but before we end this video, there's one thing that I want to do is maybe you have seen it. So you sometimes see that there are 3 big obstacles on each lane and we can't really jump over it or move beside it. So this is something that we are going to fix in this episode. Let's go back into code and see what we can do. So in our floor tile, what we have is our spawn lane item. We call it 3 times, and there's like a random range between these percentage values that we have. And so it can happen that we spawn 3 times the same big obstacle. So for this, what I want to do is add the signature of this function and give it an int32 reference and call it big num or numbig, numbigs. Copy this, change our value over here. And why I'm adding a reference, because I want to have it as an in and out parameter that can be changed. So in our spawn lane item, I define an int32 called numbigs, set it to 0, and pass this one to each function or each call of the function. And in here, what we need to do is, if we first here we create our big obstacle, we increase our, or do it afterwards, can say if obstacle, so if it's really created, then we can say numbigs plus equals 1. And where we spawn our big obstacle, what we do is we ask if numbigs is less than or equals than 0. Then we do this, else we copy this line over here, the small obstacle, and add it to the else branch here. So that for each lane that we are creating an item, which is local to that function, this integer. So for each new floor tile, this would be different. So we don't need a view property or member variable. This can be a local variable that we can then change inside these function calls and check and see if we really have 3 big obstacles on our lanes. And to prevent this, once we have 2, that means the next one would be a small one. So this is just a simple solution. You can try figure out things differently with percentages or other ways, but for the purpose of this series, this should be fine. So let's compile this and go back to our editor. And let's see if we can still see 3 big obstacles. There shouldn't be anyone. So let me just see. We have 3 small ones, which should be fine. And there's a coin. So I should use the jump down button that we implemented, but let's see if this kind of like, you can see there were 2. So with a small one inside, I'm really bad at my own game right now. So let's see, but there weren't any cases of 3 big obstacles by now. So this should work. Jump down. So like I said, this was a real short video implementing the jumping down and the fix of the big obstacles. The next episodes will be the pause menu will be the next one. Then we create our lives so that we have 3 lives and handle our respawning differently. The one after that will be the death menu, then the main menu, and then this series will be complete. And so we're getting really close to the end. So thank you for watching. I hope you really liked this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will gladly answer them. And please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when new episodes are coming out. This would really help me. So thanks again, and see you in the next one.